Hi and welcome to another session with Ram and Shashi. So today we want to discuss a couple of things about journalism. So in the first part, we will discuss about what is journalism, the necessity for journalism, and the importance of journalism, and also what is information, misinformation, and things like that. And in the next part, we would like to discuss about the citizen and his or her responsibility when consuming this information. We'll touch upon topics like what is the language of democracy that we need to cultivate, and what does numbers in general mean, and why we need to have irreverence to authority when it comes to matters of public policy or otherwise in general when it comes to consuming knowledge, and how to spend time wisely, and educating others, and having a meaningful and a pleasant conversation or a debate. So with that, let's get started. Ram, over to you.
So when I just want to clarify that we're going to do this in sort of a mixed mode where we may be talking sometimes in Telugu, and sometimes in English. So first, I'd like to start with the question: what is journalism? What do you think? What is journalism?
Yeah. So in my opinion, a citizen is doing going by his daily activities in terms of his own living, his or her livelihood, life, and family and other things. So as a society, then we come together and say that since we have our own individual lives to lead, we entrust a particular set of people to take care of our common needs, and that is why we elect a government. And to keep a watch on that, and to be our eyes and ears, we have journalists and freedom of speech to make us keep us informed.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I would like to define it in a very simple manner. I would like for us to define journalism in a much more simpler manner. So we have used in the particular definition that you have given, or that you attempted to give, you already used a lot of things which themselves are vague, which themselves are like journalists, for example. Without defining journalism, we cannot say who a journalist is. So even before we go to journalism, maybe we can think about what is the necessity of journalism? What is it that we are consuming when we consume journalism, or when we consume, what is it, the main thing that we are consuming? What would be the the product
you would like? Yeah. So you would like to you like to keep yourself up to date about what is happening around you, and how is it relevant to you, or how is it going to impact your life.
So
that is the main.
Information is what it is related to. So journalism is related to information. Would you say that?
Yeah. But then what is reporting? Reporting is also just reporting. A reporter just plainly gives the information.
Yeah, reporting isn't reporting just.
But journalist also gives his or her viewpoint, or how you insight into how to consume the information.
Yeah, the perspective is also information, right? So the perspective is just information about my own thoughts or someone else's thoughts. So but what is, I know that in your list of content you mentioned information to be later, but what is information? What do we mean by the word information?
Any change in the physical reality around us, and the information, your understanding of that. So you are coming to, you're cognizing that there has been a change in the reality.
So to drive home the message of what information means, I'd like to provide a very simple example. So let me put this as a question. Let's say there are some 1,000 monkeys with some 1,000 typewriters, they're somehow mechanically typing. What is the probability that they end up typing a line from one of Shakespeare's works?
Very, very finite. But it is a non-zero.
So when you say that, how are you saying that it is non-zero? Because the line itself the line itself doesn't have any meaning. They're just bunch of words. It doesn't have any meaning. The letters or whatever, they don't have any meaning unless somebody reads it and says, oh, this is a Shakespeare's line. It doesn't have any meaning. So without a person being there, without a person being involved, just those words on paper themselves have no meaning, right? So that doesn't mean that a reality doesn't exist. A reality exists. A paper exists, independent of whether I look at it or not.
Yes.
But there is a particular part, a particular aspect where we are ascribing a certain meaning to that, to the set of words that are there on the piece of paper, and that's how we can say, oh, okay, the monkeys have typed this. So is this Shakespeare or not? Is this Shakespeare or not? And then we are saying, oh, okay, there is a finite probability. So information has two words in it: in form. So in form, to form means act. So the action of mind to know is inform. So the mind knowing is information. Anything when the mind knows, it's information. So there is really no such thing as misinformation. What is misinformation? Misinformation is also really information. If I tell you that hey, I got I won a jackpot or something, which is not true, right? It is still something that I told you. It is a lie, but it is still something. It is still your mind is knowing what I told you. It is if I say the sun is a green rectangular rock, the sentence the sun is a green rectangular rock is itself information, because you can understand it. It is grammatically correct. It has some meaning that you are able to understand, and you are able to understand that it is incorrect, because you are comparing it to reality, and in reality that the sun is not a square rectangular green rock. Right? So it is in the process of your mind knowing something. So information has to do with your mind knowing it. So journalism then is something to do with information. And so whenever there is information, it has to be grounded in reality. Because like I mentioned, when I say information, that information is only information when it is grounded in reality. Like there is a probability of monkeys typing a sentence only when there is a human being looking at that sentence and saying it is a sentence. Without a human being calling it a sentence, there is no sentence. So then in the same sense, without a reality, without being grounded in reality, without us knowing what is reality, there is no really what is information then, right? So any journalism has to be grounded in reality. So journalism is the conveying of the information grounded in reality. That's how I would put it.
Okay.
So naturally, I mean, what do you think? How I mean, do you have anything to say on that?
No, I look at it from my perspective, in the sense that as an individual, what is that I need? Like there is some work that there is something which I need, and then I have offloaded some responsibility to different set of people, so that they when they are working, they do that work for me, and then that is why I pay some money for the either to the newspaper or in the form of taxes to the government. So for me, it is some task that I have given out, and I need a good job of it. So that is the reason why I need someone to explore reality, like you said, in the right way, and then give me bang for the buck that I give them.
Yeah, but one needs to know what the task is, because if you say that I hired somebody to cook for me, then I will pay the cook only as long as the cook is cooking good food that I can eat, right? And I should know what I call the cook to cook for. And so in the same sense that we should know what cooking is, that we should know what journalism is before we load off the responsibility. But do you think journalism is just about the press? Because can the reader be separated from the press?
No.
So it's not really you giving off, but it's both ways, right?
Of course, yes, it's both ways.
Yeah,
I'm a key element in the whole equation. Yes.
Right. So what is the necessity of journalism? Why do we need it?
So that we can have a better society which lives more in conformance with reality, and therefore lead a more quality life.
Yeah, because we have decided to come together as a society.
Come together as a society. Yes.
And we cannot. We can definitely be alone and be by ourselves, but definitely that's not going to have a very good quality of life. It's going to be very difficult. I cannot do everything myself. I cannot learn everything myself. So we need what we call as sanghika or societal this thing. So that's why we have come together, and we have formed at the core of our society is our constitution more than the government. So it's the constitution that is primary, and based on this constitution we have a government, right, that makes sure that there is no physical force that of one individual on another, or a corporate on another, and that makes trade possible. For example, it can recognize a corporation. So things like that we have done. So for that we need to be on the same footing, and we need to know what is happening in different sectors, and to keep us coherent, and to keep us all together, unified, and take us forward. It is communication. So I actually, in the olden days, I think I don't know where exactly it started, but they used to put like some notice kind of a thing, like on a, if you imagine, I'm not saying it exactly, but the beginning of journalism was that they would just put a list of things happening on that day, or events, or some sort of a thing somewhere. I may not be completely right on this, but they would just post this list somewhere, and then other people in the tribe would get to see it. So it's about the maintenance of the tribe. The necessity of journalism is the maintenance of the tribe, right? So
and I just to conclude on around this topic, you have mentioned about the citizen as a part of the press, or like the role of the citizen. So when I share a WhatsApp forward, or when I tell someone something that this has happened like this, which is a common, be it a coffee table conversation, or be it two people talking when they meet each other. So so in at that point, I am also becoming a journalist in a sense that when I tell something to someone, or when I send a WhatsApp forward, I also I have shared an information, or something which I think is correct. So in those stages, I think we also need to be conscious of that fact, and behave as responsibly as possible.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's all about the reach, right? So, for example, we are all on social media, and we all have a certain reach, and so in a way, we're all, even if you don't have social media, even if
there is this always word of mouth,
right? Word of mouth, and so, and obviously, there's also a lot of data on this, a lot of analysis on this, that how much reach people have, an average person, how much, how many more people that they meet, that they talk to, and how many get influenced by each other's thoughts, whether subconsciously or consciously. So you do exchange. You are a journalist, whether you are published or not. So it may not be published or peer reviewed, but you are still journalist, in the sense you may still be published. For example, Twitter is still, I would call it, published, in the sense, there's a record.
Yes.
But it's not peer reviewed, or there is no criteria or anything. I mean, there's sort of criteria, in the sense, there are some house rules that Twitter has, but it's sort of not like a peer review of a scientific peer review, that nobody is validating it, right? So then what is your so we talked about information, so, and we also talked a little bit about misinformation, and we started talking about Twitter and social media, and there's been a lot going on about misinformation. And in fact, recently I had seen a post from the Telangana DGP, and the Telangana DGP posted that that don't post misinformation or stuff like that, that anybody who posts misinformation will be severely punished or things like that. And I really appreciate it. I really do appreciate their efforts towards doing this, to make sure that the citizens get right information. However, these things can be very threatening, because misinformation itself is not defined. I mean, what can be considered misinformation? I mean, anything that I don't like can be, that I disagree with, can I call it misinformation? I mean, for example, let's say, you say something, you have certain thing that certain perspective, I have certain perspective. Could I just say, reality is subjective, and I am right, and you're wrong, or is reality objective, and is there such a thing as misinformation, or how would we quantify, or how would we qualify this misinformation? What do you think?
So I would look at it slightly from a different perspective. I feel that in the being stuck in the rut of things, and trying to grab attention, the eyeball grabbing or clickbait, people tend to categorize. I would like to categorize news in two ways. One is that which evokes a flight or fight response, and that which does not evoke a flight or fight response. And I would anything that any news, even if it is true or false, or anything that tries to use a language which is implying a fight or flight response in the reader or the consumer, I would I would be watchful of that such information. I would like to take a step back and keep it so that I can process it slowly, or give it just enough time to see how relevant or how much it is conforming with reality, and then reject such kind of information.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that one must hold reality alone as the ultimate arbiter of truth. And whatever is real, and whatever it is in reality, that alone is truth. And so nobody else has any authority to say that this is information or this is misinformation. Only reality does that when we hold that against reality and check. So for example, if I claim that the sun is a rectangular green rock, then it is the reality that can be used to say that is misinformation, because that it is, you can look at the sun and that sun is not a rectangular rock. Yes. But in other things, there is no such objectivity. So when objectivity itself is lacking, when there is no objective standard that is being set, how do people then know what is misinformation?
That's what I said. I have my criteria is based on the fight or flight response. So even if it is, but since there is no objective thing, so if anybody says that there is a earthquake that has come, so I would like to first check, and then instead of panicking, I would like to take a moment and then process my thought, and then see where has it come, what is the Richter scale, how do I respond, is there any organization that is working on the ground, can I contribute either monetarily or send something, or what I as I individual can do. So that would be my way of looking at these kind of things. Or if they say a new groundbreaking invention has scientific experiment has come through, and then it's going to change the world, I would like to take a step back and say probably they are overhyping it. Probably I may need to take more time to understand what could be the like, for example, I would give a concrete example. There was one news article in one reputed paper once I read, where they said scientists have found a particle which was traveling faster than light, or to some such effect. And then my first reaction was probably it could be an experimental error, and maybe we need to watch out more on this space, but not jump to the conclusion. So, and then later on, I think it turned out to be experimental error indeed. So that is how I would like to look at news.
Yeah, but the problem is that when misinformation becomes punishable, for example, on Twitter you can get banned in terms of misinformation. Somebody could claim that it is misinformation. Of course, Twitter ban is not a big deal in the sense that but you know, you could like this Telangana DGP tweeting it out that it is punishable or whatever. And so there it is not just about your personal response. And for example, there is a lot of things that you see in the media, and there are a lot of things. For example, let us take climate change. Climate change is a topic where you know, a lot of people think that it is a very good thing to support. And it is a good thing because it's good for us to have a better climate and things. But climate is not a simple thing. Climate, you know, even trained professional practicing physicists with a PhD take, you know, years to understand this complicated science of climate. And but then in the media, the advocates of climate change would be Bill Gates or Leonardo DiCaprio or మన తెలుగులోకి వస్తే నవదీప్, లేకపోతే, you know, I mean, all these people or some other yeah, so and yeah, that's a good example. So Jaggi was Sadhguru, right? And then they come up with this and then they try to talk about these things, and they obviously mention stuff that is wrong. Okay, they care, they have good intentions, they want a good climate or whatever, but they don't know the science. And then people who follow them and don't know actual scientists or actual people who know stuff, who are not famous enough, they get, you know, blindsided. And then what is misinformation becomes information. Now for example, now you say, now the consensus is somehow electric vehicles are going to save Earth. Okay, so now if you don't change the fact that you are still going to keep using coal to produce electricity and just you know, charge your car with electricity instead of petrol, then how is that going to change? Right.
So in these matters, I would like to add a caveat that generally there will be contending schools of thought. Like, for example, in the case of electric vehicles, I know considerable amount of civil people who civil activists or people who work in the public policy space trying to advocate public transport vis-a-vis electric vehicles. Now it is a question of citizens informing themselves, and then thereby and as a consequence educating other citizens, so that you latch onto the right advocacy, public policy advocation.
Yeah, and not just that, but also, you know, if electricity is subsidized, then is transportation going to get subsidized now? The personal transportation, in the sense, for example, now if you charge your car at your office versus at your home, you know, how is that going to be different? And so many things like that. But anyway, I don't want to go into the complications of that. But what I want to say is there is a lot of misinformation about global warming, what global warming means. Or and people don't know what is truth, and they don't have time to find out. And so in that sense, then they're referring to a certain authority, like now Twitter has become this de facto authority on Twitter because people are using it as a social media platform, right? And New York Times or Enadu or Hindu or Times of India, all these things, they have become, you know, because people have a certain favorite thing that they follow, like certain people they follow, certain you know, news channels they watch. And so the I'm not even coming to the normal journalist now, because the most of the news that is coming out is just paraphrasing what some celebrity has said or what some event has happened, and then providing opinions without actually ever going into facts, without ever going into a rigorous analysis. There are very few. For example, now with COVID we have seen Now you hear things like variant, you hear things like mutant, you hear things like stuff like this, that it is spreading faster, it is airborne, it is black fungus has attacked, and all these things like that. And they don't know a thing about what a variant means. And they don't know how black fungus comes. They don't know the science part of it. And yet, this then when somebody is trying to say, for example, lab leak hypothesis was shot down. Now people are saying the lab leak hypothesis may not be completely wrong. So with these kinds of examples, it's very clear that unless we objectively think, we cannot claim that something is misinformation just based on a limited set of criteria, that we cannot rule it out unambiguously. Unless we can rule something out unambiguously, like sun is a rectangular green rock can be ruled out unambiguously. No matter who you ask, which continent, which country, which race, which which person, it doesn't matter, right? So unless it can be done like that, I don't think information or misinformation can be labeled very very directly. And I think ఇది ఎందుకు ఇంపార్టెంట్ అంటే, ఇప్పుడు మనం మాట్లాడుకునేదంతా లైక్ వాట్ ఎవర్ వీఆర్ టాకింగ్, our small talk actually determines a lot of our decisions subconsciously. ఇప్పుడు మనం మామూలుగా we are sitting and we are having coffee, or we are having whatever other beverage of your own choice, and you're talking, and whatever that talk is, it determines, it influences your decisions a lot. For example, it could influence somebody, what you are going to vote, or it could influence what you are going to, which insurance policy you are going to take, or which shares you are going to buy. So things like that. So we have to be very cognizant of what is information and what is misinformation before we support it. So in this sense, now let's go to what should be your responsibility. What nee responsibility enti? What is your responsibility?
One thing is, I personally feel when so when you say information or processing information, it is also about in what platform or in what context did you get that information, and what is the mode of communication, channel and mode of communication, whether it is a tweet that you looked at, or are you reading a newspaper, or are you listening to live breaking news, or what exactly, where are you getting that information from? And that is one point. And then, as I earlier said, there is the most breaking news stuff that comes is always inevitably in a format that tries to evoke a hot emotion inside you, and which I would like to avoid. So now then there is to have a society which can consume information wisely, you also need to have a better way of higher understanding of reality. To that extent, so what are the things that you need to do? So we need to encourage good open debates, not just not those so-called 9 p.m. nation wants to know debates. Something like if you see some of these Oxford debates, where each person gets a fixed amount of time, and then you both the groups get a view to an option to, not an opportunity to challenge each other's views. So the discussion and debate should form a meaningful debate, should form the bedrock of our way of thinking itself in these kind of matters.
So when you say
so we need a culture of that.
When you say meaningful debate, let's be very specific, because
rooted in reality. And how do you root yourself in reality? Through facts which are, as someone said, you have a patent on your truth, but you don't have patent on the fact. So at least we should establish that fact is different from truth, and fact is an objective thing. So we should take that as a starting point.
I think we can define it more rigorously, because rigorous definitions are very very important. And I would like to quote, note here, not quote, I'd like to note here that one thing, what we keep thinking is that there is theory and there is practice. There is no such thing as theory and practice. There is only reality. Okay. Without knowing, you cannot do anything. Okay. Thinking is itself action. Okay. It is not physical action, but thinking is information, is action of the mind. That is knowing is action. Right. So you always, the first thing that you have to think about is direct versus indirect knowledge, or proper versus improper knowledge. So that's what
one small interruption. Sorry. When you say thinking is not a physical, it may not be a physical action. I would say it is still a physical action, just that it's not a visible action to the other person.
Yeah, I mean that's what I meant. But I also meant to convey that.
I'm just clarifying. Good.
So direct versus indirect knowledge. For example, if you have to ask yourself whether do you have the direct knowledge of this. Like for example, when, to give a very simple and objective example would be, if I say, have you seen the Taj Mahal? Okay. So Taj Mahal you have not seen directly, for example, let's say. Okay, but you know that it exists. Okay, and you're pretty sure that it is true, that it is not misinformation or anything, because you know that it is a fact, although you have not seen it. But at the same time, you must be aware that it is indirect. Or even for the fact that, is Earth round? Have you just taken it as a fact that Earth is round because somebody told you, or have you thought about it? Why should Earth be round? And have you come to your own conclusion by observing things around you that, oh yeah, Earth is round, and have you verified it yourself? Okay. And so that direct versus indirect knowledge, it doesn't mean that if it's indirect knowledge it is not true. It just means that you have to be aware, you have to make that distinction. And once you make that distinction, when you make that distinction, then you can have meaningful debate. Because how do you make that distinction? From your experience. And then indirect knowledge can be made into whether it is truthful or not when you have objective reality. That is, when I know that objectively Taj Mahal exists, then even if I have not seen it, I can even if I have not seen it, I know that it is true, right? Even if I have not met Modi, he is not a being of reason. He exists. So I think that's important for meaningful debate, is objectivity. And that objectivity, like you said, must be rooted in reality, in terms of what are we talking about, and where we talk about interpretations versus evidence versus facts versus proof, right? So is evidence proof, right? So evidence, facts and evidence and proof are not, they're not the same thing. There's several layers in between, and you have to think about it. That there is a dead body, for example, let's say. Okay, that dead body is evidence, but it is not a proof of a murder. Yes. It's just a dead body. Okay, it doesn't mean it's a murder. It may not be a homicide, but it's still evidence. Right. So like that, you have to do it. Without doing that, if you call yourself a human being, you have to do that. That is your primary responsibility. It doesn't come from a constitution. It is not a fundamental responsibility that comes from a constitution or anything. It is your human nature, that as a human being, it is your responsibility. Yes.
To be a better human, or better version of yourself.
And that's what we mean by meaningful debate.
Meaningful debate.
That we are rooting ourselves there. So that's the first responsibility of the citizen. That be a human being. Right? Know what it means to be a human being. If you don't know what it means to be a human being, and if
first make attempt to become
become a human being, please. Then the other thing is that you have to watch your language. Like I don't know if you remember,
we will talk about that, and then we can wrap it up. And I think that's a very crucial point which we used to discuss, and I think the language of democracy is something which is very, very important in a society which is coming out of semi-feudal past and becoming maturing itself as a democracy. We may be an ancient civilization, but we are a very, very nascent democracy. 70 years is not a large amount, actually speaking. So yeah, we let us talk about that, and then we can wrap today's call.
Yeah. So basically, I especially I don't like the words ruler. There is no ruler in a democracy. Okay, I see
there is no ruler.
IAS officers using that.
అధికారులు IAS అధికారి.
ఇది చాలా ప్రతిసారి every time you have to oppose it. You have to oppose yourself from
you have to oppose it tooth and nail. You have to oppose it tooth and nail.
And unless you do that, it's not going to change.
Yes.
And second thing is you have to know numbers. So you have to know statistics, right? You need to have basic scientific temper. Scientific temper doesn't mean science textbook. Scientific temper means having common sense. Like an uneducated grandmother, I feel, has more scientific temper than an average software employee, in my opinion.
Yes. Due respect. Yes, I personally feel my mother has a lot more scientific temper than a lot more people.
Certain PhDs that we know, but అరే నువ్వు చూస్తుంటే నీ గురించి అరే నువ్వెవరో నీకు తెలుసు. Anyhow, so know statistics, know what numbers mean. Don't just believe in numbers. So here I would like to give a joke like that. In olden times, cholera వచ్చినప్పుడు ఎంతమంది చనిపోయారంటే 112.5 మంది చనిపోయారంటే దీనికి అర్థం ఏంటంటే 112 మంది చనిపోయారంటే one fellow is dying almost, so 112.5. So like that, you have to know what statistics mean. You have to know what they are. Just don't go by averages, don't go by these things. This is a basic thing that you need to know. Basic math. This is only like 8th, 9th standard average statistics that I'm talking about. Know that much at least. Know basic economics. Don't talk about, before you talk about GDP or whatever, know how a GDP is determined. How do you determine a GDP? Know basic things. Know basic biology, know basic physics, know basic chemistry, and have common sense. And don't be single theme. Just because you are a socialist or a capitalist, don't support only socialist and capitalist things. America, people say America is a capitalist country. America has the child's education is free till entire schooling is free, from the tax system. I mean, is that would you call that capitalistic? But it's so don't be so single themed, and don't be scared of conflict. Don't be scared of conflicting yourself, and always, please, like we said, discuss, have meaningful debates. For example, Shashi and I vehemently disagree with each other, but we don't stop talking to each other, or we don't fight with each other, or don't disrespect each other in the process, right? So you don't have to fight, you don't have to you can disagree respectfully, and you have to think, talk, learn, and most importantly, practice. You have to walk the talk, and don't be scared of conflict. If you said something wrong in the past that you have learned is wrong now, don't be scared to correct it. It's okay. Even Einstein called something as the greatest blunder of my life, or whatever, right? And so it's okay to be wrong, and it's okay to learn. And lastly, don't take anything on authority. Don't just believe. No, when you know a thing, you don't need to believe. So don't just take things on faith. If you're taking things on faith, know that you're taking things on faith. And
actually the exact opposite is also true, in the sense that don't dissent for the sake of dissent. Don't disagree for the sake of disagreeing, or just because my ideology, or I have a fixed ideology or a fixed way of doing things in all other aspects. And one aspect, I even though I agree, because it seems to be in conflict with my other things or my support, I have to disagree with this, or not support this particular action. So don't be so tied to your own. Don't tie one idea to another idea, and then just because in all these ideas I disagree with you, I have to disagree with you on this idea as well. So don't disagree for the sake of disagreeing.
And also, if you disagree, for example, let's say two strangers on Twitter came across each other's tweets, and they're tweeting and they're talking to each other or whatever, and they disagreed, and then you stop tweeting, you close your phone or whatever device of your choice, and then you went back and you thought about it, let's say, and you realized something, that whether you were wrong or whether what you said was not correct, or that you learned from that other person, or that now your thought has changed. It's okay to go back and if you have said something wrong mistakenly, it's okay to apologize. There is nothing wrong in it. And it's always that's the last and the most important point that I want to mention. It's always important to keep the conversation going, that we cannot just continue to be in our silos, that we will capitalist people will only listen to capitalists. So that's why I like Twitter so much, because I jokingly say that Twitter is the only place where communists follow capitalists, right? So because they literally communists follow capitalists. But anyhow,
on an Android phone,
on an Android phone, right? But anyhow, so
that means capitalists are also following communists.
Exactly. But see, a capitalist is necessarily a communist, but a communist is not necessarily a capitalist, right? So but anyhow, that's a discussion for later.
Another day.
Another day we'll talk about that another day. But these will also, I also want to talk about what can a citizen do. That you have to, it is your responsibility to be a human being, that you be a human. If you don't want to be a human being, please don't call yourself a human being and then just maybe you are just an animal, maybe, like I don't know, maybe if you don't know, or I don't mean to be disrespectful, but if you're not a human, you're not a human. But if you are a human, you have to think about this, and you have to know these, and these are your fundamental responsibilities. And without knowing these, we cannot go anywhere forward. And I need you and you need me, and this is all being said only because we all can only progress together. And our goal here is going by what Mahatma Gandhi said, right? Be the change you wish to see, right? So with that, we'll end it here.
Thank you.
Okay Ra.
Okay,
bye.
మళ్ళీ వచ్చే వారం కలుద్దాం.
బాయ్. అప్పటి వరకు నమస్కారం, సెలవు. ఇప్పుడు ఉష్ణోగ్రత వివరాలు.
ఉష్ణోగ్రత వివరాలు ఏం లేవు. ఉష్ణోగ్రత వివరాలు అంటే ఇక్కడ చల్లగా ఉంది. ఓకే
సరే, బాయ్.
రికార్డింగ్ ఆఫ్ చేసి
రికార్డింగ్. ఓకే.